Hey everyone, Decent60 here, and today I'm going to do something uh, more tech-savvy for things. This is going to be uh, 10 some reasons why you shouldn't upgrade to Windows 10. Now, this may be just a little bit of a side thing, like my personal opinion on some of these features and settings and stuff like that. Uh, And right now I got Windows 10 loaded up in a virtual machine because I haven't upgraded fully yet. But I do like to test out the features, and I've been involved with the Windows 10, um, like the technical previews for a very long time now. So now with the technical previews, you don't expect any privacy. So, being involved in that sort of degree and using it that way, I was expecting no privacy on there. In fact, they literally had a keylogger built into it, and to monitor things, performances, and stuff like that. So that was, a little bit to be expected. Now, what I'm actually going to talk to you about is stuff that they actually created, put in the live edition, and there's some things that I don't actually like that that basically are forcing upon the average user. So we'll start off with the more heavy parts, and we'll work our way back to more negligent parts. So first thing is privacy issues. Now when it starts up, it asks you to sign in with a Microsoft account. Kind of like Windows 8.1, but this time it's a little bit more, they're a little bit more reliant on that this time around, and I'll get to some of the other things later on about that. One of the things is your privacy, is that with the privacy, which I don't actually have right now, but you actually get a unique advertisement ID for each user on Windows 10 that actually has a Microsoft account sign in with. What I mean by that is that it actually literally creates an ID unique to that one, apps and programs, and apparently I don't have it on this one, but sometimes you'll actually get an advertisement that appears right about here on the start menu, and it's like just a normal ad that you would see on the internet. It would pop up on the down below here. This is actually a fresh Windows install, like I mentioned before, using a virtual machine to upgrade one of the packages. Um, so it may be slightly different. This is actually a Windows 10 Professional Edition. I'm going to actually take a good look at a review at Windows 10 Home, but that's going to be a little bit different, and we'll get to that. So to show you what I mean is actually this one. So we got our settings. We actually have privacy. Now this is where we're going to spend this is where you're going to spend a majority of the time if you're really concerned about your privacy and everything else like that. So right off the bat, let apps use my advertisement ID for personal experiences across. Turn this off, will reset your ID. So yeah, this is the advertisement I was talking about. Now this is a great way to track you and to track you across there and all the other things. This is a simple turn off, turn on. Boom, it's done. But the problem is that they don't tell you about it right off the bat. That's, I wouldn't be so permissive if when you signed up, even with the expressed or custom, actually, some of the customs don't even allow this, and you have to turn things off here. This was an express one, because this is what most people will actually be doing, is an express. Not too many people go through and do the custom things, but so in the settings, privacy, general, letting apps use my advertisement ID, obviously most people don't want that. They don't want a generalized specified ad to them. It's just basically like a tracking, and to me they're annoying. Advertisements in general are annoying, and I get why people do it. But the problem is that they put advertisements in too many places anymore rather than just a small area. It'd be fine if there was just like, a little sidebar here, with a few ads, and that's it. But no, you got ads at the top, you got ads down the sides, you got ads at the bottom, then you got ads that play video on top of whatever you're viewing, and that really annoys me. So I don't like them to track me. So personally, that's one for myself. Um, and technically this is actually a tracker as well, the smart screen filter, which although it says it's on here on my the Edge, Microsoft Edge, uh, which is the Windows Internet Explorer replacement, not fully one, but they want everyone to go after that, and it's actually a neat feature, but I'll get to that in just a moment. Uh, you know, Mine wasn't enabled. In fact, it's actually disabled on the Edge, so I don't understand why, but I guess it's just for the Windows Store apps. But this is a minor telemetry, and this is how I write. So this is actually a built-in keylogger. Again, don't want that. Websites provide local, relevant content by accessing my language list. Well, that one I would actually leave on because this provides you with, any preset languages. Like if you're a native Spanish speaker but you need English, you prefer things in Spanish, it'll help out with that. Let's see here. So you also got your, locations. I don't want that on there. And personally, all this, each one of these will have to go through, and you have to pick and choose, um, what you would like here. Do you want apps to advertise that? I mean, this is just kind of like going through most smartphones and stuff like that, and going through and saying, oh, who can access my calendar? Blah, blah, blah. Yes, yes, yes. And some of these, these are all up to you what you really want to do. Like this one, this is actually a great item here to a degree. Sync with other devices. Sync with devices. So if you have a tablet, or if you have another laptop or another computer that has your same Microsoft account put in there, you can actually go in there and just switch that. Keep all your same things. If you favorite something, you can have it update that. Feedback. No, for this one I don't really care. Now with this one, unless you're an enterprise user, this is telemetry. This is actually anonymous data collection. And while it can be anonymous, alright, I believe I should, me personally, if it's my computer, my equipment that I'm buying with, Microsoft does not own my equipment. So I believe I should actually limit what they can and cannot send. That is another thing that I believe I can, should be disabled. If you have a Windows Home Edition, however, you can not go below Enhanced. Now, what are these feedback settings and stuff like that? I'm going to just use Edge. It's actually doesn't. These are kind of. Oh, here we go. Basic, vital information data, apps running, capabilities of what your device can run properly, and everything else like that. And it, in theory, it should help them build a better Windows computer. However, that they should be able to, build a better working Windows computer from anything. So, I personally, this is another thing that is the most concerning about this telemetry. Is that because, you know, obviously you're going to have Microsoft employees, contractors, and vendors. And vendors in this sort of thing is going to be like ASUS or MFI, or not MFI, Acer and other NVIDIA and Corsair and companies like those. Um, you know, that actually do things, who actually build things for Windows. You know, they're going to need you know, to help improve those products. You know, Microsoft can sell them some of this information. So that's one thing. Um, you know, and of course they could be partners. Now, yeah, and I don't really get why they meant third-party software or hardware, because technically everything's third-party. Microsoft does not build computers, so um, yeah, I mean they build Xbox controllers and stuff like that. So this may be, you know, some detailed information about the Xbox component systems and stuff like that, because with Windows 10 you can actually integrate some features for the Xbox and that feature. So now, personally, I don't want to give them too much information because, yeah, it's just other things. And here's some things that you can have keep running in the background. You know, I'm not going to need maps. My computer sits here. It's a desktop. I'm not going anywhere. Um, Alarms and clocks. You know, all this stuff is controllable and stuff like that. But since this is a testing computer, I'm testing thing. I am, you know, not going to do that. This messaging let apps read and send messages, text or MMS. Uh, that's really going to be for like if you have Cortana uh, running and everything else like that, which is actually going to be my next thing. You know, Cortana, you know, is a surface like Siri and Google's. I really don't know what to call it. It's actually just like Google voice activations, Google things. Uh, Now, when you have Cortana running, so this is essentially Cortana's docking station. All right, so this is kind of like feedback here, so you can write to them and stuff like that. So if you're going to enable Cortana, say, hey, let's pick up back. I said, all right, first we need to get started. Now we need some basic information. Now, what this is going to do is send. And just like Siri and the Google's voice, or the OK Google, whatever it's called, is going to actually send information back and forth to Microsoft. You know, location history, contacts, voice input, search history, calendar details, content, communication history for messages and apps. Is going to be to a browser history. Is probably going to be uploaded. Personalized speech, inking, typing, you know, that's all going to be uploaded to it. So, and this also applies to many other services over here. All right, so yeah, that's Cortana in a nutshell. Let's see here. All right, so the next item that is a little bit of a buzzkill for me is that your synchronization. All right, now this is a good and a bad thing. Uh, so like I said before, you know, you can synchronize with your products, make everything work, you know, between your tablet phone and stuff like that. Um, you know, your settings. You can sync your settings, themes, browser history, passwords, language preferences, ease of access, and other Windows settings. It doesn't really explain that, but basically your browser history, your passwords, And when it means passwords, it also doesn't mean just your web passwords. It can also synchronize your Wi-Fi password as well, so that you're okay. So you go with your phone somewhere, and you have Windows 10 phone, the 1% of you, 0.1% probably actually, that have it, and not kind of knocking on it with this new update with Windows 10. It actually may be a good phone, and actually may be a competitor to Android and Apple. Probably not so much with Apple, but with Android, it's going to be a good competitor for. Uh, so, say you go on your phone somewhere, you're at your buddy's house. He wanted you to sign in. Okay, you wanted to use the Wi-Fi instead of so you sign in. All right, set, good. Now you're sync. Now, if everything's synced, I'm going to assume it's going to be other Windows settings. Really going to be the one for that one, but. Alright, so it saved Jim Bob's Wi-Fi saved with password, and what it does is it encrypts the password key and everything. So you don't actually get to see the password key, and I'm going to have to actually test this out with something else. As this is, virtual machine, I don't actually have a Wi-Fi adapter on here to synchronize with. Even though I do have a Wi-Fi card on my desktop computer, it does not synchronize. It does not pick up that I have one here. So, well, I'll have to test that out at a later time. But if it's like Windows 8, there's no easy way to see the password saved. There are ways to do it, but there's no easy way to do it. You actually have to use a command prompt and go through it that way. From what I've read with this, is what it does is it actually automatically connects you up using the information stored on the server, rather than you having to type in an actual password, or rather than giving you an actual password. So it's a little bit secure that way, but it's still the fact that you can that ability is still there. And speaking of that, Wi-Fi Sense. It doesn't actually look like it's going to display it on here. So let me see if I can find it in the actual settings. So bear with me 1 second. Wi-Fi Sense. Yep, it's probably because I don't have a Wi-Fi adapter. So, what Wi-Fi Sense is, and this one is a huge, huge security risk that I see going on. So, Wi-Fi Sense is the ability to share Wi-Fi passwords with all your Facebook, your Outlook, and Skype contacts at the same time. Now, you don't get to pick and choose which contacts you share with. You actually share with them all, every last one of them. Now, this can be handy, and it cannot be. So, say someone you worked with 5 to 10 years ago was part of your Facebook contacts. You sign in with the Facebook app. Your app is now linked to your Microsoft account, which means that Microsoft has access to all your Facebook contacts, and thus their emails and stuff like that if they were set up that way on Windows 10. Now, let's say you had your laptop with you, and that buddy of yours from 10 years ago actually turned out to be a psycho stalker, whatever, or just a plain scumbag. And you open up your networks, and right here is where you would find like your Wi-Fi network, like Netgear or something like that. You sign down here, and it takes effect the first time you signed in. So if you actually, if I had one here and say it was a Netgear, clicked on it, typed in my password, and like with Windows 8, it says, do you want to find computers, printers, and other components on your network? There's that option, and then there's another one that says, would you like to share your Wi-Fi password with your friends to make it an ease of contact? what that will do is it will automatically share it, and it'll take your Wi-Fi password, load it up on the server, and anyone who's on your contacts for Outlook or contacts for Skype or contacts for Facebook, will have access to your Wi-Fi. Will have access to this Wi-Fi connection. Now, I kind of stopped myself before I said your Wi-Fi network, because it's not actually your Wi-Fi network that they can do that with. It's only the first time you connect to a Wi-Fi network. So let's say I was at my buddy Joe's house, and out of all my friends, I'm the only one that Joe likes. Well, my buddy Jim, however, lives next door to him, and he doesn't have Wi-Fi. If I actually signed in to it with this, and he did not share his Wi-Fi password with me, and I had to sign in manually, so I had to type in, the Wi-Fi name and password, or I had to click on the name, and then type in the password and all that fun stuff. Do all that. I could theoretically share his Wi-Fi password with all my friends. Now, Joe is not going to know that I did that. But Jim, if he's sitting next to his house and isn't connected to the Wi-Fi anyway, he'll now automatically get connected. Okay, and that's kind of a security. To me, that's a severe security risk. Now, that can be turned. From my understanding from the Wi-Fi Sense, is that it is on by nature, but you have to give it permission to share it out. Again, I'm going to probably repair my old laptop and see if I can get it to work with this to make it just to test it out. But from what I've read and how I understood it, it is on by nature. So unfortunately, I don't have a Wi-Fi thing, but it would have an option down here under Wi-Fi to set up a Wi-Fi Sense. Wi-Fi Sense on off. All right. Now, once you share it out, you can't revoke it. Okay. So there's no. Well, there is a way to revoke it. It doesn't apply to if the network is a metered connection. And by metered connection, I mean is if you right-clicked on here, which I don't know why you can't do it with an Ethernet connection. That's just a standard network here. But anyway, when you right-click on a Wi-Fi connection, you have, since Windows 8.1, you've had the option to rename. You had the option to forget, disconnect, or connect, or set as a metered connection. All right. So what that means is that it could be you only have a limited amount of access to it. So that kind of works out best if you're like in a home situation where you got a lot of people sharing things. Just to limit the bandwidth going across the network so that you don't reach a data cap. That would be one. If it's a meter connection, that will actually block them from connecting up. That is the only way around it currently, besides changing the password. Now, I don't know if you change the password or if you hit forget this network. If hitting forget the network will forget it for everyone else, but as far as I know, the only actual workaround is to set up as a meter connection if you accidentally turned it on. Okay, so that is one thing on there that that I don't really particularly like. Now going back to sending anonymous information back to Microsoft. as I said before, the telemetry, the diagnostics, and use data is something you can't really do. If you have Windows Enterprise, you can actually go into uh, the group policy and disable it. If you have home or professional, home you can't do anything. You're stuck on full you can only go to enhanced. You only have this option. This one right here will be blanked out. If you have professional, you can only go to there. However, there is a way to actually there's a way to actually okay, so opening, as I said, opening up in command prompt, if you type in this command here, you'll actually start removing things with telemetry. Now this is going to require restart, so I'll be right back once I'm fully restarted. Okay, so now that it's restarted fully, notice a few things going on here. I'm just waiting for. Okay, so so with that undone, that should actually prevent the telemetry. So you notice how things are no longer working? And it says some settings are managed by your organization. That's because we removed the package completely. So that is a awesome plus. And something went on. Anyway, so that's exactly what we wanted. And just to see some things here. That's not what I wanted. I wanted privacy. Well, I guess most of the telemetry is disabled, but that's actually for the key logging information. Now there are some other things we can do to actually block that. And again, I'll post exactly what I typed in on the screen, or down below in the description. But that's one way to block some of the telemetry and some of the personalization that was, basically kind of robbed actually from you. Well, not personalization, but just privacy off of that. Okay, so, right, so the next item that we're going to talk about is something that I really haven't actually used, and it's something that hasn't, and for me, it's not. I'm talking about privacy and everything else like that, but I've not really. Well, that's a little bit odd. But it's not something that I've actually used personally, mostly because I've had issues with this. It's BitLocker. Now, for those that don't know, BitLocker is a way for you to encrypt your hard drive. So, basically, when Windows to access any files, it basically has to have a key. Now, when you turn this on, and it may not work with this. I hate that part. Anyway, it may not work with this setup. It looks. I may have to go through a different setting here. Yeah, it's Yeah, it's just because I'm on a virtual machine. Alright, so anyway, with BitLocker, when you run this, it encrypts your hard drive, and once you do this, it'll ask you, from my knowledge, it um, gives, well, you have a key that you need to save somewhere. So in case you need to put this into another machine to recover the data off of it, you need that key. That key is a big file. Well, it's not really that big, but it's a long string that is stored in a file. Normally, you store this in like a USB drive. It does have some options to burn it to CDs and stuff like that, but with the USB drive, it's more portable, easier to put inside a little safe and everything else like that. However, uh, from what is listed in the terms of service and privacy statement is that Windows will automatically back this up onto their server. That, for me, is a big no-no. Now, I've had some people tell me who use this in the technical preview that you have the option to, it is optional to do that. I cannot fully verify yet. I can only state that where, from, from what I've actually read, is that it automatically does that for you, but you have the option to not do that. Kind of the, opposite of it. Um, yeah, that's just another problem that I have here, is that really storing anything on a server that's not something that you can control, not something that you can manage, that to me is a big, that's a big no-no. Alright, so, and it'd be better if you volunteer to do it. Now, if it is the other way around, that is perfectly fine. I am, more than happy if it gives you an option to do it, but from my understanding and everything else like that, it is a big no-no there. So, alright, so let's go on to the next item. This one is actually something that is something of a little bit of concern and alarm. If nothing else here, it seems to be, you're basically more like, okay, yeah, I can live with all that. This one may be something that you will not like. Now, Windows updates. You all know that the major thing with the Windows update, if you have Windows Home, it's mandatory. You have no options to defer it. You have no options to do anything really. I believe you have this one here where you can, not install it right away, but once you shut down the computer, it installs, or after a certain amount of time, it will install. Yeah, will automatically install the updates when you aren't using the computer, or you can install now if you want. Well, that is one major problem that I have. Already this year alone, well, of course this year alone, since that's when the technical previews and everything really came out, but just a few days before Windows 10 release, Microsoft did a forced update to their technical preview ones. That caused a lot of computers running NVIDIA graphics drivers to stop. So they're basically the display drivers stopped working. They had to revert back to the default ones, which causes a lot of problems, not only with size, proportions, and everything else, but also multiple monitor display capabilities, and just causes a whole lot of headaches. That was one thing that caused one. Now, there was also another one just last week on August 5th. As you can see, my date's August 11th here, but on August 5th, there was another update that was rolled out, and many computers had problems with it. Basically, it's like an endless cycle of restart. as you can see, automatically install it whenever you want. Uh, from my understanding from that one, I didn't like it. It didn't affect this build. Um, I think it was actually this one here. I was pretty sure I got all the updates installed for it, but this is Patch Tuesday, so. Um, but anyway, what happened was is that they would, alright, it would try to find it, couldn't install it, restart the computer. Alright, once the computer, well, actually, it found the updates, tried to install it, required a restart to complete the second part of it. Computer restarted, second part failed, restarted again, and kind of like did an endless cycle. After a while, it would retry to download the updates, do it again after a certain amount of time. So it was a continuous vicious cycle of restarting. Um, that was something that was causing problems here, and that's one thing that I don't like about the forced updates for home. I believe that some security updates and critical updates should be, but things like this one, they should apply it whenever the computer is shutting down, or just do it whenever the computer's not in use. Because if, let's just say I'm at home, I'm doing YouTube videos and stuff. Let's just say I'm doing that, making YouTube videos and everything else like that. If I set this up so that, let's just say I took a 15-minute break. It installed the updates, restarted the computer without allowing me to save anything, and like it would do with the old updates, where it says, hey, updates installed, please restart in 10 minutes, or you can postpone for up to 4 hours, and constantly do that. That's if you chose to automatically install. With this one, I have a little bit of a leeway. So since I'm Windows Professional, and again, some of these because of that little thing we did, we disabled it. We can't upgrade to Insider's build because of that thing we uninstalled, that I just uninstalled. So I can't do that, but I can notify to schedule a restart. I'll be asked to schedule a restart to finish the updates. Alright, they won't download. Now, this is a key one here. So if you're on Wi-Fi and you set up a metered connection, you won't be able to do it. And I believe, yeah. Yeah, see? It will allow you to do it that way as well. So setting up a meter connection on home or premium, or sorry, not premium, but professional, is another way to actually do that. And that kind of prevents it and gives you a little bit more leeway. However, after a certain time, it will basically force you to update at a certain point. I do know that part of it. And you can always defer updates. And that gives you a little bit more option. And yeah, you can defer it. And basically, that allows you to manually set it up. That's all it does. So instead of automatically updating, I can defer it, and I choose when to update. Now, it will only have a maximum of 8 months, or the next critical update is set up. So there are some updates that Microsoft will roll out probably before the 8-month time period, probably every couple months, that will say you have to install this, otherwise you can't use your computer anymore. So that's one problem with it. Even the deferred updates are still something a little bit bothersome. This one right here is actually not too bad. Give me updates for other Microsoft products when I update Windows. Kind of like if you have Microsoft Office, the security updates for that one will apply. and things like that, but other programs provided from the Windows Store will probably apply to there. Now, getting back to where I started out for the beginning of this, going here about Windows updates, the part that this one is going to make you actually a little bit worrisome if you know anything about computers. Uh, as I just went into there, I said choose how how updates are delivered. Now, this right here should spark a little bit of a question in your mind. It's like, what do you mean? There's other ways for me to get it delivered? And you know, one would expect, to download from server A, server B, whether if you're in North America, whether you have West Coast, Central, or East Coast, um, or if you're in Europe, whether you have a couple different UK sites, Germany, France, stuff like that, UK, United Kingdoms, you may have like a London site or Ireland or Scottish, Scotland. Servers set up different areas to optimize it so you get a better connection. Right? Well, no, that's actually not what this does. So updates from more than one place. What this does is basically turn your computer into a torrent. Now, obviously, if you have a metered connection, this prevents that from happening, but you are basically torrenting your computer out. Microsoft is now utilizing your computer and your internet connection as a torrent for other computers. Now, this will save them and possibly even give you a better internet connection overall. However, this has potential to lead to bad things. Alright? So, like I said, it's a torrent. And if anyone knows what a torrent is, this is where you have... Alright, I have a complete file on my computer. And let's just say Jim wants to update his, he wants to get that same file onto his computer. Well, the normal person who owns the file, which is called a seeder, he's getting a lot of requests. Now, what a torrent system does is it basically allows other people to seed the same information. So not only Microsoft's the main seed, so they're going to be the primal seed off of it. Alright, now anyone who completes that and has this option enabled after downloading from the primal seed will be turned into a seeder as well. So if Jim's trying to reach out to Microsoft servers and getting a very poor response, the program will also defer the connection to a different computer or multiple computers to get a better result. So let's just say that it's going to defer to me and 10 other neighbors, and we all have poor internet connection, so he's not going to get a great connection, but he's going to get a better one than what he would have if he just went directly with one connection or through Microsoft. Alright, now torrenting is not a bad thing if you're known about it, and if you know about it and if you choose when to do it and when not to do it. Such as a lot of Linux distributions, the Linux operating systems operate on torrent systems. And this is because that the Linux operating systems and their companies, they actually do not, they're a non-profit organization, so they don't have all the mighty resources like Microsoft or Apple have to send out the things. Now, some of them do, like Red Hat, Linux. They actually have a good infrastructure that they could download directly. But other ones like Ubuntu and Mint and CentOS, Debian, and all those other ones, they're more Um, they do have the main servers, but and then they have other people who will offer to do it for them. Now you can get them directly from there if you want, but you can also use a torrent to download it, and it makes the connection. It makes a less congested connection for them and everything else like that. And so torrenting is a great way to ease the infrastructure of a certain company. The problem is that Microsoft is, and this is a default setting right here. So basically, you're going to get PCs on my local connection, which is fine if you have a big house, and PCs on the internet. No bueno. That's literally stating that you're turning into a torrent. Not only are you getting it from someone else, but you're also going to be transmitting it back out. All right. That is. Why is this a main concern? Well, all right. If that computer has a virus on it, there's a potential that it could infect that distribution pack. Or since this is, a feature on here, and that's something hidden, creeping in the background, people are going to try to invent. Well, they may try to invent viruses to use this as a backdoor into your computer. All right. Nothing is worse than a open flaw into your security. And torrenting is one way to do that, because there are ways to tag and mistag something that is completely different than what you're intending it to be. So instead of being a Windows update, you may be getting a partial Windows update, partial virus, keylogger, backdoor entry, remote access tool. All right. You just may get a slew of things that could potentially infect your computer. Now, I'm not too sure how Microsoft initializes these, whether if it's from, it does a call out and checks, and then does kind of similar to a torrent where you have a tracker that keeps track of who has what and who's online. If that is the case. But this is, to me, a severely flawed security. Alright? Personally, I would have this turned off, even in my own home. I've had problems where there was a virus on the network, and it did, in fact, jump across to another computer. This was before I had a much better secured network, but still. So that's just one thing I would shut off. That is like I said, it's a severe security risk and concern to have a torrent system built in that's automatically turned on without you knowing about it. But yeah, that's something that is you should look into. Personally, I would shut it off myself, but your mileage may vary about certain things. Let's see here. Oh, yes. One thing about Windows 10, the whole privacy issue. Now, with Windows 10 Home, you really do not have a lot of things going on with it. So, I'm going to do that. So really, what we want to do is take a look at a few things to help improve that. Alright. So if you have Windows 10 Home Edition, you can look for this thing called Do Not Spy 10. Alright. The company, or the blogger that I found that actually had it was GH Hacks Technology. Now, even on here, he does mention that this program is bundled with other things, which a lot of security warnings will read this as like an adware malware program because it is bundled inside of it. So we're just going to go here, just going to snag this and see if that's actually it. Nope, that's not the right one. And see, this is why I hate advertisements and um, everything else like that, because it does not really want to work. Alright, so right here I have the publisher could not be verified. I can run it anyways. So, and just like anything else that you have with this, this is actually my first time installing this. This is the first time I'm really running Windows 10 to actually do this. Alright, so just like anything else, you want to read through anything. If you see something that says Express or Custom, always choose Custom. Check a look at the options. So Custom, install Grapevine, don't want, and unfortunately this is actually necessary to complete this. So, and that's it. A lot of things that run with the source forge. Okay. Yeah. So you see a few things I've already set up. Um, Anything that's already enabled is selected here. So, I don't have any biometrics, so I could disable that. Disable automatic Windows updates. This does not 100% work, but yeah, it only works on Windows Pro and Enterprise editions. So, always read what each one does before you check it. You don't want to check something you don't want. So, and once you do that, you just hit apply, and then I believe you have to restart the computer. So I am going to delete telemetry, or disable I should say. That one should actually be disabled already. Friends. Yeah. So we're going to apply. And if you happen to mess up, you can hit discard. That will revert it. And this was made by PXC Coding, which is PXC Coding. It's a German-based one, but if you go to dxc-coding.com /DE/portfolio/do not spy 10. You just click the download do not spy 10 and you get this program. It's basically kind of like all the other ones. Now there are other ones made by Reddit users. Okay, so there are other ads made by Reddit users. This is one in particular. If you see down here, there actually see, other people posting themselves, what they did. The reason I use this one is because these ones are really not they're not the best, and and it's kind of like a personal preference. With this one here, it does do some work, but you do need some dependencies installed first, such as Python and stuff like that, in order to use this one. You know, and you can search the Reddit forums. You know, you'll see different fixes and stuff like that. And the only reason I use that one, well, and the reason I actually use this one is basically this one has a more complete listing. It's all in one. All you have to do is disable a few, bits of adware that comes in there, and that's it. It's simple, easy to use, straightforward. Comes with, you know, it comes with the description of everything that it does, but these are not as complete. I guess it's the key word here, but you can always look up your own, pick and choose whichever you decide. Now, keep in mind that some things, like on Windows 7, or not Windows 7, Windows 10 Home Edition, sorry, they do not apply to this. Like disable automatic updates. This only works with Pro, so make sure that you read through here and make sure it will work for your edition. But a lot of things do work for all of them. So that's just one thing you can do to try to clear that up. And again, link will be in the description for the actual file, this page here. I do want to get you to take away a few good things with it. Number one, Windows 8 operating system, or sorry, Windows 10 operating system is just kind of like how Windows 7 was to Windows Vista. That's the same way with Windows 8.1 is to Windows 10. Or sorry, Windows 10 is to 8.1 as Windows 7 is to Windows Vista. It is what it should have been in the beginning. With that being said, there are some, still some downsides to it. Like I said, with the privacies, that stuff is a little bad. But, you have a very powerful operating system that doesn't require a lot of resources. Now, when I do say that, I actually do mean that because I am using a AMD computer with a quad core. I devoted 2 of my 4 cores to this computer. Actually, I can show you a few little specs about it. This is a 32-bit operating system because I do not have a Xeon processor. I cannot run a 64-bit operating system on a 64-bit virtual machine. Sorry, I can't run a 64-bit virtual machine on this processor. Out of the RAM that I have dedicated, since it is only 32-bit, I have a maximum of 4 gigs of RAM usage. I did put in just a little bit higher amount because my RAM is being used by my graphics. And the graphics that you've seen on here are actually from a virtual machine's rendering of it, and not actually my graphics card. Even though I have a 3.21 gigahertz processor, only 2 of the 4 cores are being used, so it is a little bit of a taxing on it. The CPU levels do climb steadily, quickly, rather than, gradually. Alright, and it actually runs lightning fast. Granted, I don't have a whole lot installed, and kind of like everything else, a fresh install gets you the best. Some other things about it is that this little side panel here. There's a lot of things that you can do here. Quick access to notes, which I don't believe I have installed. No. You can actually set up a tablet mode, which works a little bit different than desktop. It's just basically your start menu there. Easy access to your settings. Connected wireless displays, devices, and all that stuff. Just really quick access to everything. and your action center. Was a little bit of a nuisance before, and it wasn't as clear, but now it is. So I can see, Windows updates were installed. Quickly go there. All right. And because I did some things, Windows Update is going to behave a little differently than before. And that's perfectly fine for me. Um, that's a great thing. There is, you do get the speed and performance that the Windows 8 had. 8 and 8.1, they have they changed the architecture around internally. So this is why you actually have to do a kind of like an upgrade to it. It does transfer the files over, but it doesn't. But essentially, it wipes everything out clean. So the architecture on the inside is changed. What this does is allows better utilization for 64-bit processors. It does also allow a lot better utilization for RAM and multiple monitors. And I know some people who are saying that they have Windows 7. They had no problems with multiple monitors. I, for one, don't have any problems with multiple monitors running Windows 7. But when, if you're under 6 monitors, you're not going to notice any difference. And quite honestly, if you're using more than 6 monitors, you have a lot more to deal with anyways. But really, if you use around 3 monitors, you're not going to notice any difference. Once you get up past the 3 monitors, you may notice that the scaling and everything else is a little bit harder to work with Windows 7. On Windows 8, it's actually a much smoother and much easier transition. So there's the things with that. Windows 10 is also going to be, according to Microsoft, the final Windows edition. So they're not going to release any more, things like that. But they're probably going to release like a build one. So it's going to be like Windows 10.1 or Windows 10.11, stuff like that. The reason for it is that the system is built so that they can upgrade core components of it without affecting the overall usability of it. Now, if you plan on having multiple devices with Windows 10, and you're kind of like me, where you have your preferences set up perfectly for your desktop computer, and all the settings and stuff like that, you have it set up perfectly, and kind of wish you could transfer some of that to your laptop, or to like a laptop, or file with your Microsoft Edge, passwords for things and stuff like that. You wish you could transfer that easily over to the next thing, and that is possible with Windows 10. Windows 10 is designed to be one operating system, multiple devices. So a lot of your settings, your history, your favorites can be transferred interchangeably through your devices. And basically the easiest way to make sure that it is that way, you go to your accounts and sync. You just make sure that's on, and any setting changes that you do is sent to Microsoft. Microsoft stores it, and anytime you log on to something else, such as a tablet, laptop, stuff like that, it syncs it up with it and allows you to continuously have that product there. So, your desktop, you like it, just say I like this desktop, I want it on all my devices, I can do that. A lot of themes can be transferred. It doesn't transfer to all devices. There's going to be some give and take with your phone and your tablet, but for the most part, it is going to be that way. But for that to happen, you do actually need to have a Microsoft account. And that's for obvious reasons. And there's, going back to the account thing, there are some better features for it. Some of these were featured in Windows 8, some of them were not. One of them, I do not believe, was this one. Work access. Connect to work or school. And this basically allows you to create a separate account for if you're if you require a domain to access things like a shared folder or file systems, or you have certain programs on there. Um, and this will also can allow your school or work to designate certain actual files onto that computer. So let's just say that you're a salesman. You need to have, a Microsoft Excel, QuickBooks, and a few other, other items, like a little catalog system. Stuff that is only designated, stuff that you need for your work, and your job could prevent you from downloading excess things, or instead of having you to manually download it each time, you can log into your domain and automatically get an update to download that. All right, um, and add or remove packages, package-free work. That kind of falls into that. But this gives you a separate account for that and allows it to be restricted to just that. And that's something that's, quite nice. Um, Not sure that too many are going to actually make the utilization for this. They rather give you just a lockdown laptop or a lockdown desktop or something like that and do it themselves rather than have you set that up. But it is possible for them to make it locked down for that, at least that account, at least. Um, and because I have some things blocked here, this one is a interesting one that works nice. Um, Let me actually fix that real quick. Hold on a second. Okay. So did that. Okay. So even for some odd reason I can't do that right now, but anyway, there is a way to see if this gives an idea. Okay, so basically what you can do is you can actually set up what's called a child account, all right? And you can set up an adult account for a family. You could, and I believe you can actually designate that, a local administrator automatically as the, and this may actually not be it because I'm on a local account. Anyway, you can actually designate that, let's just say you have a 13-year-old child or something like that. You can actually set them up to have an account here so that you can monitor their activities, prevent and limit access to games, apps, just basically, make it work. And this was a interesting feature when they introduced it in, I believe it was started off in Windows 8 and 8.1. And you have to actually go to your Microsoft account to accept it, and you can actually view and monitor their activities, get a progress report on them, and just see what's going on with it. This is actually a great thing. Like I said, Windows 8 and 8.1 had this as well. It worked out great. It was a very nice feature on there, and it really just kind of helped you to monitor your kids, and it could be like a little punishment type of sort of thing. So they're not doing great in school. Guess what? You can block access to games, apps, websites, whatever. You can literally do that. And the only way for them to go around it is to basically not use this. However, if all your devices have Windows 10 on them, and they're signed in, and their account is associated to that, oh, guess what? you're not only blocking it on here, but you can possibly block it on that as well. Um, that's kind of like more interesting features. So, you know, now, huh, oh yeah, I'm not signed into my account. Yeah, that's more likely why I'm not able to do that right now. But some other things that's interesting is use a PIN rather than a password with your Microsoft account. This is a good for older generation people, but it's also bad as a security. So, besides all these negative things, there are some positive things about this. Uh, as I mentioned, uh, better overall functionality of the computer, more ways to add users, and synchronization across all accounts, as long as you're signed in with a Microsoft account. So there are some great things to take away with here, but for now, at least for me, Windows 10 is not something that I'm going to upgrade to because there's a lot of privacy issues. Although it can be mitigated down and to a reasonable level, especially with the programs like Do Not Spy 10, to help out with that. But that is this is something that you shouldn't have to do as a starting point. So I'm going to actually wait a little bit before upgrading, but for now, this is, it is a Windows 10 does have potential to be something great until they fix some of these privacy issues, especially with the forced updates for home users. That is something that I really dislike. Until they fix that little issue right there, it's still going to be a little worse off than anything else. For me, I would actually get I have Windows Home Professional. I also have a Windows Home Ultimate that I managed to steal before Windows 10 came out, and so for me, I'm not going to be too hurt on things. I'll still have a great operating system if I choose to upgrade, but it's still the whole key factor that I should not have to, do a lot of workarounds just to it still comes down to that I should not have to do a whole lot of workarounds just to have a more or less private computer. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you think about this. Does the privacy on it concern you as much as anything else? Are you actually going to update to Windows 10, or have you already? Are you one of part of the 14 million that did it? And so, how's your experience? Ben, leave a comment down below. Let me know how it is for you. Uh, you know, and we can go ahead and discuss, and maybe you have some answers to some things that am not a few the privacy issues that I'm not too concerned about, not too sure about, because right now it doesn't work on mine. But yeah, hit like, and for more videos similar to this, plus other gaming style videos, hit subscribe and like up this video. Until then, you guys take it easy and peace.